pushing. Eventually it's gone. And daily I've been wondering about what's been going on. We be pushing. Eventually it's gone. On a daily I've been wondering what's been going on. We be pushing. Eventually it's gone.
Hello.
Great.
Greetings.
Bula Vinaka.
It's a bit of a song by Peanut Butter. Can you hear that? Yeah. You know how much I love her. Hi, everyone.
She's very talented.
Isn't
How
she?
are you all?
Good. How are you? Hi, Seb.
Hello, ladies. Bula Vinaka.
Hola, talofa.
Hola.
Good to see everyone logging in. Greetings, everyone. I'm MC Trey, joining you from the Darug and Tharawal lands. Paying respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and very blessed to be able to call Western Sydney home. Oceania 2, we're streaming fortnightly here on our Oceania 2 Facebook page and our YouTube channel, and you can also watch us on the Matavai Pacific Cultural Arts Facebook page and our Fiji Day Sydney Facebook page.
The original MC being able to just string all that in one go. Lisa Bula Vinaka Sewu here, joining you from Nandi in Fiji. Now on Oceania 2, we like to share stories of strength, resilience, and connection to inspire and empower communities. So thank you for joining us this evening.
Fa'atalofa lo'ia tuia oto umalava Pacific greetings, Oceanic greetings. I'm MJ, one of your co-hosts. I also work for Matavai Pacific Cultural Arts. I am joining you from Dharawal land, and welcome to episode 2, season 2 in 2022. How powerful is that number? That's actually a very powerful number. We return this week with some very accomplished guests joining us as per usual. And we also have Oceania Quiz, What Rocked Your Coconut? So wherever you might be joining us from, thanks for joining us. Please let us know in the comments and say hi. Don't be shy. It's good to see you, Seb, joining us from Fiji. Glad you got home safe.
Thank you. I feel great being here. And so, yes, MJ, as you mentioned, we will be talking with both Professor Jioji Ravulo, who is the professor at the University of Sydney, and he's part of the Core Pacific Collective. He'll be speaking about COVID-19 Hope Toolkit that has been launched a couple of weeks ago. And Trey also got to catch up with Sione Sisifa, who is from Melbourne and runs Shotcaller Studios. All right, Trey? Shotcaller Studios. He just released a web series titled Liana. And Trey, you've been quite busy running around with guests and interviewing them. So look forward to seeing your interviews. How are you going? And what have you been getting up to in these last few days or since I saw you last?
Still running around, but I'm not as fit as you yet. But I'm good, thank you. And, it was a pleasure to catch up with Sione and Professor Jioji. There's a lot going on our side of the world with our Pacifica communities and incredible projects, work, and people. And we will have more details about our guests shortly. This week for me, Seb, it's been a roller coaster. We just had this freak storm here out west. Climate change, do you think? And it is a roller coaster when you're a solo mom, you work part-time, you're freelance, and you're part of a Pacific community, like we have there's responsibilities always. And, that's the beauty of our people, right? We step in for each other and there's always people to step in for us. And we find strength and resources to do what we need to do. So yes, we journey on.
We journey on. And how about you, MJ? How have you been? What have you been up to? Busy lady?
So busy, eh? Like first of all, seeing you at the Tonga fundraiser, United for Tonga last week on Thursday, with the beautiful mele and all the Tongan communities. That was very cool. I loved your red jacket and your red shoes, Sev. Like, who could pull that off but you? So fine. Anyway, it was good to
Tonga
see you.
red.
Yeah. Hi, Juliet. Hi, Meresi and Mwemwana. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, tell us where you're joining us from too. Yeah, so it's been busy. We've started rehearsals for a big event. Hopefully that will happen in April. But we just take every day, one day at a time. But I guess apart from all of that, I have been good, but if I was to be real, there is a lot, like Trey said, going on in this part of the world. And I just wanted to take this bit of time to acknowledge and pay my deepest respects and condolences to those who have lost loved ones in our community, because there's actually been quite a lot of them. And for those who are mourning in our community, I wanted to personally name everyone, but unfortunately, and very sadly, there isn't enough time to do that because there are so many. And if this is triggering for anyone, you could, feel free to switch off. But this week alone, a lot of our kids at Matavai lost grandparents, people that were part of our community. And while we're on the topic of elders and grandparents, I just wanted to say thank you to all our elders and our grandparents for everything that you've done for us, for leaving us our lands and our language and our culture and our values and everything you've taught us. And if we don't say it enough to you, let us say it to you tonight. Let us not leave it until a time when it's too late. Yeah, I just wanted to express my gratitude to all our elders. And if young people have the opportunity to have their grandparents around, spend as much time as you can with them, listen to them, ask them questions about their beautiful homes. It must be very hard for them because they can't get home at this time. We all want to go back home to the islands. Luckily you can, Seb, but so take that opportunity to speak to our elders. So yeah, blessings to everybody listening in.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. So many of our elders we were talking about earlier, and maybe we should look at dedicating, program to put names and faces to that, and just do a little bit of digital vigil or something like that, maybe in memory of. I think that's important. Talking about this, Mary Jane, this week I've been dodging it so far, but I got COVID. And Omicron, and because I've been doing all the education stuff around it, when it hit me, I knew that it was, with a lack of taste, lack of smell, the sore joints, muscles. And I'm just so grateful that, some of us can come through that. I got it from somebody who was asymptomatic, so they didn't show any signs of it. So, and I've been so protective, masking, me sanitizing, doing everything. But there was just some moment there where that got through. And so that's off my bucket list, if you could say that. I've got it now. And I believe both of you have had it. Is that right? So now we've all had it. We've all had COVID on here, and we can certainly share our experiences. But, Mary Jane shared something very important there, is acknowledging our elders especially, and the loved ones that have passed on. I believe some communities are looking at doing some visual tray that you are sharing about. That's been postponed, but that's going to be coming up. I suppose it's just postponed, so it should be coming up again soon, yeah?
Yeah, it was supposed to be tonight. So that was the Fiji Diaspora Women's Alliance, and it was going to be held in Big Park here in Liverpool, but because of the freak storm, it's been postponed. So we'll share the details when there's a new date. But I just thought, what a beautiful gesture, to hold a gathering for families and anyone who wants to come down and pay respects to those that have passed on, and it's a great way of healing, right? Community healing, and together as we do as Pacific people. So yes, we'll keep you all updated on that. But as Jane said, and you both said earlier, we've got some amazing guests. We've been busy talking to people, and our first interview will be with Professor Jioji Ravulo. So I got to catch up with him during the week to talk about the Core Pacific Collective's COVID-19 Hope Toolkit. So he's the professor of Social Work and Policy Studies at the University of Sydney, and the Core Pacific Collective Hope Kit was launched a few weeks ago. So he'll be talking about that, and they advocate for better support and services for New South Wales Pacific community. So he's going to share a bit about that, and we can go to the newsouthwalescpc.org.au for more details. So we're going to go over to the interview with Dr. Jioji.
Misa Bolavanaka and G'day, I'm Jioji Ravulo, and I am excited to be part of this shared space and conversation. I am Professor and Chair of Social Work and Policy Studies at the University of Sydney, and have been involved in supporting the Core Pacific Collective. Ethnically, my father is Itoke Fijian, so he comes from Ra, a village called Naivira in the region of Ra. And so very excited to be part of these shared conversations. The Core Pacific Collective, CPC, is a group of different entities that have come together in response to COVID-19. So the 5 different groups are the New South Wales Council for Pacific Communities, the Pacific Women's Professional Business Network, Pacific Islands Mount Druitt Action Network, also known as PIMDAN, the Core Pacific Mental Health Group, and the University of Sydney. And each of those particular entities have one representative that is supporting the Core Pacific Collective. So the COVID-19 Hope Toolkit that was developed by the Core Pacific Collective is all about creating knowledge and information that we can share in and across our Pacific communities here in New South Wales, but also more broadly across the country and region. And I should note that HOPE, we call it the HOPE Toolkit. HOPE stands for Help Options for Preparedness in Emergency. And the document is a compilation of different infographics on different topic areas, ranging from what COVID is all about, what the vaccines is all about, how to prepare your family for COVID, especially when you're in isolation. But it also has a whole heap of resources that can support you, like, for example, how to support your mental health and well-being, how to interact with kids during this time. We also have a series of fitness videos that have been provided by Crunch Fitness, and that's also available. So this toolkit, alongside the broader resources, is available at the New South Wales Council for Pacific Communities website. So if you do a Google search on NSW Council for Pacific Communities, you'll find that particular web link, and there's a dedicated page section on the New South Wales Council for Pacific Communities website for the Core Pacific Collective for this particular resource. So we've been able to put together this toolkit in partnership with New South Wales Health and Multiculturalism New South Wales. And basically, we've been able to, with this knowledge and information, translate it into 5 different Pacifica Indigenous languages, which include Samoan and Fijian and Tongan. And this resource will then be made available on the website as well, on our New South Wales Council for Pacific Communities Core Pacific Collective website, and made obviously available for everyone to access. And we're already starting to get feedback that the translated resources that are being made available is being used in our Pacific Islands themselves, which is very exciting to think that something that we're creating here in Australia can be utilised more broadly across the region. But I think that that's also a big part of what we do, right? In our connection with the community. Even though we might be part of the diaspora here in Australia, we're still inextricably connected to our family, to our communities back in the island. So I think a lot of the stuff that we do by default has a regional appeal. the Hope Toolkit itself, we do have a listing of resources and services that people may want to reach out and connect with. And a lot of these types of services are locally based, but some of them are regionally based as well. So this includes mental health services and other community health resources. There's a lot of websites that are available in the toolkit, which also is directed in the context of age as well. We've also got resources for the LGBTQI community, young people, seniors. The other key thing that we also have put together as part of this shared approach is our Pacific links. And this is where we have community representatives from across the area to be contact points, to the go-to people. And so if people are needing support in particular areas regionally, but even in regards to need, like for example, finances or well-being, they can make contact with these specific links and they can then receive further support and then information and referral information associated with getting that help that they may need. COVID-19 has been a whole mood in and of itself. So I think one of the key things that we just want to ensure we're doing as a community is continuing our shared communication with each other, to know that there is support out there and it is available. And part of our approach as Pacifica people is to ensure that we're promoting that shared approach. So we're hoping that this resource will be one of many others to further create that ongoing talanoa, that ongoing kōrero, that ongoing conversation around the way in which we can support each other with COVID-19 and how we continue to ensure that we're doing it together.
That's it from me. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, apart from saying a big hello to Sev and Mary Jane. Hi. Hope you're all doing well, and yeah, be great to catch up very soon. That's right. And also a big hello to Trey, who's obviously she's doing the recording with me, so big fan of Trey and her ongoing work across the community, so a big shout out to her too.
Thank you, Jioji.
Thank you, Dr. Church. We're going to call him Professor Afro. How's that? He's no longer doctor, he's now Professor Afro, who rocks the Afro in the Pacific, huh?
You think he'll like that? You think he'll like that name, Seb?
I love it. Well, he rocks such a good Afro. I think, it's his brand. He's known for that Afro. Yeah. So Professor Afro. Acknowledging, what Dr. Church has been talking about, which is obviously the toolkit and the resources and services that are available, mental health websites. I mean, there was so much information in there that Trey, that you discussed with him. And like Pros that UI, it was just concise and made small jam-packed into such a short session. But also that there, one of the things that I liked about the whole approach was not only all the resources and services, but that it's also being used in the region and that there are regional Pacific links that people can contact as well. And while I'm at that, I just want to say hi to everybody that's tuning in. Please like, follow, ask us any questions, make comments. We want to hear from you, and like, follow, and share. So the more we get this out, this is our show, our Pacifica show, and we want to make sure that everybody is listening in, can connect and relate and receive something from it. And we make this as much of an interactive talanoa as much as possible as well. So what did you think, MJ, of
yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that it's available in the islands too, because there are places like Tonga, Samoa that have only recently started seeing cases of COVID-19. So the information, the information in there is stuff that a lot of us have already experienced and know because we've dealt with it throughout last year. But I guess for those in the islands that it's relatively new to, I think it's going to be very, very handy. So well done to Core Pacific Collective. If you'd like to find out more information about the Hope Toolkit, go to nswcpc.org.au for the information.
And can I add, at the moment, they've got 2 Pacific Indigenous languages on the CPC site, and They said that they'll be adding the indigenous Fijian language and the other languages that aren't on there. So they're working on uploading that this week, if anyone's wondering.
Mac Melangi, Mac Enarimalo Melangi, he said that they love the toolkit, very informative and useful. So there you go, some
Excellent.
feedback. Yeah.
Excellent.
Also, I just wanted to say well-being is a huge part of the challenges that we're facing at the moment. And it was really nice to see you, Seville, head back home after such a stressful week, because you hopped in with the United for Tonga fundraising event. That took 1 week to put together. So maybe it's a good time for you to show your photo of you relaxing in the swimming pool when you arrived home in Fiji in paradise.
I wish that just on that, Mary Jane, the Tonga fundraiser, for those of us that were there, was unbelievable. It took 1.5 weeks to organize. Mele's just an incredible lady. And her amazing team that worked on all of this and pulled that all together. The support from the Tonga community was amazing. And I just want to acknowledge as well, those that sponsored, those that were involved in the raffles, auction. As far as there was so much, the spirit of giving was just so great. And I want to acknowledge all the performers. There were 4 different groups that performed, including Matavai, which is why I got to catch up with Mary Jane and give her a hug. The young people from Matavai were just outstanding, and all the other groups that, contributed to the event made it phenomenal. Maybe next time we'll share the video of it, because there's some beautiful footage out of that, and was able to raise 33,000 plus Australian dollars in one night. And besides that, I saw earlier Mele posted that they were able to give a check of 25,000 USD to the High Commissioner's office, which will then be donated, obviously, to the kingdom. And I hope that there's going to be a few more of this. I stayed back in Sydney for a week because I wanted to be part of that and to help out as much as I could and give back as much as I can. So that was just really, really good to be part of that. So this is me earlier this week. This is me earlier this week.
Very
Aquaman.
Why are you taking it down? I want to have a look. I like the glasses. That pout is on point.
I wasn't even pouting. People keep on saying that I pout.
Really?
I'm not even pouting.
Well, your natural looks are just gorgeous, and that pool looks divine.
That was just this
shot.
afternoon. That
Love
was
it.
just this
Beautiful.
afternoon.
I want to go.
And you know what? The thing with, yes, I'm waiting for you to get here. Now, what I just want to add to that photo is that after having got Omicron, I just put my body in the ocean. I mean, I had, in water, and it's seawater in the pool. So I'm in such a grateful state, because I just think, man, relatives of ours, families and friends did not survive. And here I am. I wasn't affected the way that others were. Yes, I had a little bit of, but compared to others, I'm really sitting here with gratitude. And that's why I thought, here's the sunset. I'm blessed to be alive for another day.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. Hey, and Marie C says, I'm so jealous, Seb.
I am.
You'll have to come and visit. We'll all have to go and visit.
Sister.
Watch out, Sebu.
She's
We'll
jealous.
have to plan a visit.
My beautiful sister. So
Does she?
Yeah.
Do you look the same? Your sister and you? You look the same?
No, she is beautiful. She is stunning.
Oh, that's nice. That's beautiful things to say about your sister. Let's move along now. We have Oceania Quiz up next. We do have an Oceania TU t-shirt to give away. So if you want to win yourself a t-shirt, answer the following question. So the question today is what? I'm going to show you the picture first of all. There's somebody else commenting, Trey. Who's that one? So this plant here, I don't know what you call it in Fiji. What do you call that plant in Fiji?
I'm not sure.
Okay, in Samoa, this is called a Lao Tea. In Tonga, it's si. In Hawaii, it's ki. And in Cook Islands, it's rauti. In English, it's cordyline. So the question for Oceania Quiz today is, what are 2 uses of this plant in the Pacific? So what are 2 things we use this plant for in the Pacific? I'll give you one example, because this is what we use it for at Matavai. We use it for clothing, for costumes. So what are another two uses of the lauki or the cordyline plant? If you answer correctly, we'll give you a t-shirt. You just have to send us through your details. Okay, the answers are coming in quickly. We'll come back with the answer very shortly. There you go.
Right. Okay, so we're going to wait till after our next segment, Mary Jane, or we're going to... Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Okay, so next up, we have What Rocked Your Coconuts, a segment where we share about something that irked us or, made us excited, something that rocked your boat, rocked your coconuts for Islanders. Let's do it.
That's a good workout video.
What rocked your coconuts?
What rocked our coconuts? Well, for me, we've all been seeing these videos about the seasonal workers scheme and hearing stories of how our people are being treated here in Australia. So, I'm sure it's rocked so many of us, rocked my coconuts for sure. There's some good stories, but a lot of horror stories. There's been some deaths even over the last couple of years, I've heard. But you guys have seen some of the videos, yes, and heard some of the stories about how our people are being treated.
Mary Jane.
Yeah. So this week I was watching, I think it's the hearing or the inquiry, the Senate inquiry for job security, and there was 2 Vanuatu young men and 2 Samoan men, and they were sharing their experiences of what they've been going through here in Australia with the seasonal worker scheme. And it's not everybody, it's not all the employers, but there are some that really need to be addressed. And so there is now an investigation on some of the agents that bring these workers over. My first question, as was the question for many Pacific Islanders, was who's responsible? Why is it that this is happening to our men? So we had these men report that they were treated unfairly. They'd be pushed, they would be squashed into a room, 8 people in a room. Their pay was being deducted. They were working up to 73 hours and they were only getting paid $100. They had things like transportation money taken out of docked from their pay, but they had their own car. I mean, there's situations where they've been sick and they've been forced to go to work. I mean, it's just endless stories about the way the seasonal workers, people are being treated. I did have a video, but I couldn't upload it. But that really rocks my coconuts too. That this really needs to be addressed. How effective is this scheme? If we're shipping thousands of our young people who are, so critical to the agriculture back home and the culture, what's happening back home? And then they're coming here and they're not able to bring their families. They have to be for 3 years. They can't change employment. There's so many things that need to change about this thing. Yeah.
And the good thing is, we're hearing that they're hiring Pacific workers here that have more understanding and, being able to be the bridge and to speak up for our people. So that's a positive change. But, I was just thinking of workplace cultures in general, like we've all had our experiences with toxic workspaces. So, of course, that layer already exists in this country, whether you're a citizen or not. And then they're going to have all those other layers of discrimination, lack of knowledge, misunderstanding of language, and then, of course, people that are greedy, that want to take advantage. So they definitely need to put more Pacific people, but also people with knowledge about the law and advocacy, and then the right systems, to address this stuff.
I was reading, and sorry, Seb, you want to put, because you know a lot about this stuff, but I was reading in Sydney Morning Herald that there was a spokesperson from Fair Work Ombudsman who confirmed that there was 18 approved employers of Pacific Labour that are now under investigation. That's a lot of employers. So let's hope something comes out of it. Also, another thing is to my understanding is some of them might be losing their visas because they've discontinued working. So there's discussions about why can't they stay until the hearing's over, because they're giving evidence. Sometimes they're getting sent home. Visas are being anyway. There was just so much information. My head was about to explode. What are your thoughts, Sev? You know a lot about the scheme.
Yeah, the whole thing is that this is not regulated. And like you both mentioned, this problem exists in Australia. Like, we have those laws that protect us. But those coming in don't necessarily understand the laws of the countries and their rights as workers. So I think there needs to be more education before they leave the countries, is to be educated on what are they going to confront before they get here, and to be clear on what the contracts are about, and what they're supposed to be getting, because of course you're going to have sharks. What we're talking about here is people who then ruin it for everybody. There's 18 of them under investigation that you mentioned. Now, don't forget that there's over 100 of these employees, that where these people are working. So there's a lot of problem in the system, and the government is trying to catch up with it. There's been cases after case of how people have been treated and how they've been taken advantage of, and not being paid, enough, etc. And all their pay is going to paying for everything else. And the thing is that now we're having Pacific people working in these spaces as coordinators, as facilitators. So a lot of this work is happening now, but some are falling through the gaps. And what we are seeing is those that are falling through the cracks. But they need to be addressed, they need to be addressed. Those people need to be accountable, and there needs to be compensation on what's happened. There's been deaths. There's been people who've been really mistreated in a bad way. And somebody should be accountable, and those businesses should be accountable, because they're the shonky operators that are taking advantage of our people, and we're over it. I was just thinking when we were talking about this, is we need to put some videos out to educate our people, right? So let's get it organized, and let's just do it have it done in Samoan, have it done in Fijian, get a Tongan translator, but get this done and address some of these issues that they need to be aware of before they leave the country. The whole thing is just a great opportunity for people to come and work, like that whole visa that you're talking about, the 3-year. Don't forget, the seasonal workers was a 6-month visa that they had, where they would come in and work. But this other visa allows them to have a 3-year, and they can work in different industries. It's not only picking fruits. So there's hospitality, there's all kinds of occupations that they can get involved with, gain skills, and they can even have the opportunity to then apply to be a citizen of the country. But the point is a lot of our people are not getting the information. They're not understanding it. And it could be just as simple as the information is not being communicated in our language in the way that our people will understand it, so that they know what their rights, they know, hey, this shouldn't happen. Okay, this shouldn't be happening to me. I'm going to call this one number and I'm going to get help. You know what I mean? There needs to be a system that's checking on these sharks that are out there, So it can be so simple. It's just it's a mess, really, in terms of how this is.
Can I just say, these young men that have come forward and gave their own testimonies, I have so much respect for them. It must be very scary.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that perhaps there were threats, or I just can't imagine it being an easy thing. And I think they're heroes for speaking up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've met some of these people. I've met some Fijians, about 5 of them, that have been mistreated. And they told me their personal stories, and how they've been treated. And they were fearful. They left their job. They came to Sydney because of how they were treated in those places. They were given all the the dirty work, the hard work to do, and the hours were unreasonable, the amount of work, like they had injuries that weren't taken care of. And these are big businesses that are supposed to be taking care of people, you know, according to the lands of the laws of the country. And they're not doing it. So we need mechanisms that's going to protect our people before it happens, to safeguard them. And there needs to be a way out that they can be able to make a phone call, and that, you know, they would be able to receive help. There needs to be that in place, because it's a scary thing for people to come into a new country. They feel lost, they've been taken advantage of, they've been bullied, and they just become slaves, you know, and they don't understand what is going on. And they're walking home with very little in their paycheck, whilst they came with a dream that they would be able to at least earn a decent wage. If they're coming here and they're not even earning what they're earning back in the islands, what's the point, right? So anyway.
Let's just hope this inquiry actually goes somewhere, you know. But it's,
Yeah, and maybe
Start.
maybe we should interview some of the delegates, you know, that are the Pacific delegates. So maybe that's something we could look into, yeah? So we can
Yeah.
get some more detail.
yeah,
Alofa
that's-
I was just going to say, Alofa, who's online, was just saying the agents aren't being transparent with our people, who have no idea most of the time. So this is another thing, right? There are a lot of different people in between this whole negotiation. And so some of these kind of things are sneaking through the agents, through the employers, you know. And then you've got people who are providing, the employer could be good, but then you've got a shonky person that's looking after your real estate. And you'll have 4 people staying in one room. This is one story that I heard, 4 people staying in one room. They were all paying the same amount for that room. That room is only supposed to be charged once, right? They should split it 4 ways. Firstly, they shouldn't even be living in that space altogether, because there's a rule around this. There are terms and conditions that are not being followed, right? But it's not being regulated in a way that it's policed so that they can really be nailed. So this inquiry is a good way to identify all the gaps. But they were saying how 4 of them were there, and it was the real estate that was ripping them off. So they were all paying for one room, and they were all stuck in there, didn't have proper facilities. And the room is only supposed to have like max, I think, 2 people or something like that. Like one person should have their own room, or 2 people can share a room, but they had 4 people. And these living conditions are happening all the time. There's so much to discuss around all this, you know?
Even next door, I'm sure, from where we are here in suburban Sydney, you know, because other cultural groups, you know, so we've just got to be mindful of our newly arrived communities, and, you know, have heart for our people out there that's doing it hard. And, you know, we'll look to getting more information and interviewing someone to a bit more, so we can find out more information on this. Yeah.
I am so with Alofa.
Alofa is like, our people come over and these schemes need support like workers here have with the unions. Unions aren't great either, but I feel we Pacific Islanders who work with ER and IR can put together information sessions to educate our people. There are plenty of us in this field. That is true. It frustrates me like hell that our people from the islands aren't aware of their work rights. Well done.
Alofa, maybe Alofa can, you know, you can inbox us.
Yeah.
And we can look at that together, you know, rather than just talking about it. Let's
Or
look
you
at.
Just tell us in person when I come to Lofa, my losses.
You know Alofa?
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
Alofa? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, you wouldn't
There
want to
you
get
go.
the
Come
wrong
on,
side
Alofa.
of a Lofa.
Come on, Alofa. I'm on side with her.
Dude,
I'm
I
on
can
Alofa's side.
I can even hear the tone in her voice when she's saying all this stuff. So yeah, she's so right. Happy to help. Thanks, Lofa. Love you, sis.
Alofa, I would love to. Alofa, sorry, I was just going to say, I know I'm dragging on, but Alofa, if only we're trying to be diplomatic on this show. Offline, you get to hear some of our frustrations when we let steam. Anyway, sorry, Mary Jane.
No, I saw a comment by someone that wasn't Pacific Island, and they were saying something like, well, you know, they shouldn't complain because in the islands,
Don't start.
They don't even get a smidgen of what they get here, so they should be grateful for what they get here. Oh my gosh.
Get your
Just
whiteness, racist approach off of it. Like, this is the problem, right? This is what they think. They think that we are dying in the islands, that we're coming there. Do you know what I'm saying? We're fulfilling a big gap that people don't want to work out in the fields. Why do you think there's so much work out in picking fruits and working in abattoirs and all these things? Because people don't want to do it. So why don't you take your wife and go over there and try working there for a moment before you make comments like that? I'm just so tired of all this whiteness. Anyway.
Oh,
Privileged.
White privilege. There you go, Alofa.
thank you, Sev. Can I just say, my cousin's wife, her brother just passed away in Tasmania. He was a seasonal worker. He was only 27. His name is Sefulu Tau Ili Ili. He's arrived back home, I think it was on Monday, and so he's been taken home. That's the second death in Tasmania. The first one was a woman. She was 35-year-old. She's a mother. But going back to Sefulu, the young man that passed recently, from what I heard from my family, he had a pain in his neck. He worked that day and then he passed suddenly. There is no upside to this. It's absolutely tragic. But the Solomon Islanders, what were the other islands? All the different islands came together. The Pacific, East Timor, Vanuatu, they all came together and joined forces with the Samoans during this very sorrowful and painful time. So it's kind of brought our people together outside of their islands. So hearts and thoughts and prayers for the family of Sefulu.
Very
Amen
sad.
to that. Now, we need to move on from this. I know that this was a heavy topic, and I'm glad we gave it some space. Maybe now, MJ, we can, on a lighter note, back to our quiz.
Yeah, no, that was a bit heavy. I always seem to bring the heaviness, don't I? Yes, so this quiz that we said...
That's what you're speaking, truth.
Well, yeah. The question was, what are two uses of the Lao Tea or this plant in the Pacific? So what two uses other than clothing? Joseph said, tell them to read up on blackbirding. This is essentially modern day blackbirding, extractive, colonial, human and racist exploitation and slavery.
Thank
you, Joseph.
Preach, brother.
Preach. Okay, so, I mean, on a lighter note, this plant here, cordyline Loki, as we know it in Samoan, my Fijian fellow co-hosts don't know what it's called in Fijian.
I think it's called red tea. I just did a Google. Red tea.
Okay,
Have you heard that?
Red tea.
Sir?
Yeah.
T as in T-I, which makes sense because it's S-I in Polynesian languages.
Yeah.
So in Tonga it'll be C. Perhaps Fiji it's T.
Yep.
No,
so
it's
the winner of the Oceania Quiz this week is Melangi Mac Enari. Melangi said it's used for massaging, so I can get a half a tea. Bahaha. What does that mean? I don't know what that means, but I just thought massage and tea. Okay. And medicine. Yes, that is very true. It is used for massaging and medicines. Have you guys ever had a massage with Loki before in cold water? It brings the fever down.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, in Fiji, we use it. My sister mentioned it earlier. It is used to wrap food in.
Yes,
to wrap food in that we then steam, or like the little cassava cakes and so forth. And the
the banana, the cassava,
the beer and stuff. Yeah, that's what it's wrapped in, Trey. Besides it being used for dancing and to wear it.
Tea cooler. Does that sound like it? T-I and cooler. So
tea cooler.
No.
Anyway, if anyone knows, let us know. But we have to look that up. It's got T-I in it somewhere.
So other uses are material, clothes, medicine. The red stuff's used for dye, and in Hawaii they call it ki. They used it as rope. So we do it too for cushion. We plait it, and it's very strong and lasts a very long time. And there's a whole heap of other uses as well, including with food. So that's your Oceania Quiz. Melangi, if you can send through in messages your address, and we'll send you a T-shirt. Thank you for joining us to play that game.
It won't be half the tea either, Melangi. It'll be a full tea.
So
what is a 4-4? What's a 4-4? Alofa said that her grandmother uses it to 4-4? Is that
So
like
massage.
bombo?
Massage?
We say bombo alofa in Fijian. So
Oh.
is that in Samoan 4-4?
For four? For four?
For
So there should be.
4.
Yeah, so when
Bombo.
during COVID, like Freddie, my husband in our family, he has a plantation of loki or cordyline, and whenever the kids or myself are sick, he takes the stem out to make it a bit softer, dips it in cold water, and it brings your fever down. And every time my son has a fever, because he's prone to get fevers, he always comes down. So if you have cordyline, put it in cold water and use it to massage your body to bring fever down. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Okay.
Love it.
Love it. Now, coming up next, our time is, wow, we've only got 15 minutes left. So let's get into it. Coming up next is an interview Trey did with Sione Sisifa of Shotcaller Studios from Melbourne. He recently completed episode 1 of a web series titled Liana. Liana is about a dejected young woman battling an identity crisis, caught between obeying mom's traditional Samoan values or exploring Western Gen Z's freedoms where there are no morals. Sione created Shotcaller Studio as a platform to express his photography and videography work. And when the start of the pandemic hit, he found himself stuck at home without a creative outlet. Take a listen on what this young man created in lockdown. Thank you, Trey.
Yes, and I think we're going to play the trailer, yes, of Liana first, and then we'll go to the interview. So here's the
Awesome.
trailer of Liana.
Anna! Liana!
Eh? What?
Do you have any money?
No.
Oh, no, stop you then!
Bro, stop being a bag.
So you love your job, yeah? All you do is complain about it.
Good of you to squeeze us into your busy schedule.
Saying you gotta talk like a balangi, acting all proper and shit.
You do know that mum takes all of my money, right?
Shit, she's not here right now, is she?
Babe, Australia. You speak Australian?
Look around. We're not exactly living like kings.
Stop! Are you even Samoan?
Yes.
Damn.
Guess I've always been a creative person, and you kind of know, I guess, as a kid. But being a kid of immigrant parents, they push the education side quite hard. So I ended up going to uni and becoming an accountant, which kind of, I guess, put a bit of a dampener on the creative pursuits until about probably 4 years into that job. I probably fell into a little bit of a depression and kind of had to stop there and start up with my creative pursuits just to, I felt like I was heading in a bad direction. And so I started that firstly as a music producer and kind of in the Melbourne hip hop scene for quite a few years. And at the same time, I kind of had a passion for photography. So, you know, kind of making music, writing songs, taking photos is all kind of mixing towards what I would consider filmmaking in a way, or storytelling, using those mediums. So I kind of fell into it, I guess. I felt there was a need to tell stories that weren't being represented, something that reflected what I experienced growing up in Australia. And I guess was during the pandemic, probably mid-2020, there was an opportunity to just sit and reflect, you know, being that we were locked down. And so I kind of put pen to paper and drafted this, what started off as a short film. But I just kept throwing in things that I felt needed to be talked about and shot and be put on screen. And it kind of has evolved now into a mini series, which kicked off, I guess, with this pilot that I just dropped. So I came up listening to like Aussie hip hop made in Australia, like late 90s, early 1000s. I linked up with Prowler and managed to feature on one of his mixtapes or compilation albums that he put out. And that was like maybe 2002. Around that time, I was still like at school. So I kind of finished school and then that was put to the side. When I came back to it, the scene had changed a little bit. It became a bit more mainstream. And I worked with like guys like 360 and All Day on a mixtape. And then it became like an era, like a producer era when Flume started blowing up. So I moved in that direction and did like a producer DJ kind of thing and toured around Australia and stuff. That whole time I was like into photography. So they kind of mixed together to produce what I produced this Liana show. Growing up as a Tongan kid, moving over from New Zealand at a young age into a predominantly Western Palangi school, I kind of had a lot of difficulty feeling like I belonged in certain pockets of society, school particularly. And my parents probably wanted to forge a kind of successful living here. I felt they sacrificed a bit of the cultural stuff to make sure that we could speak English well and get a great education. And so part of this kind of dilemma is what a lot of us experience as second generation Kiwi or Aussie. So a lot of what the show is representing is that experience. A lot of the different characters that kind of form around that experience, whether it's parents having their point of view, friends, family and siblings. And so it's like the push and pull of that cultural crisis that this main character is experiencing is partly based on things that I've gone through, siblings and friends have gone through growing up here. It was a bit of like a blessing, like a bittersweet blessing, because I couldn't collaborate with anyone face to face on any projects. It was all through Zoom. So there was a bit of a isolation. I just took it upon myself, I guess, to try and bring myself out of that creative funk by putting something like down on paper and just continue that process. It probably took about 3 months to formulate the idea or the concept for it. The challenge was finding talent in Melbourne. So there was Shreya, who plays Liana, the only actor that kind of matched the protagonist's kind of character that I had in mind. I reached out to her and we started chatting what was to be a short film based around her work experience or experience at work. As I said, I was just throwing things on top of it. All the other Pacifica talent are just people that I reached out to who have no experience acting. The funny thing about it is on our shoot days, about half an hour before we actually started shooting was the first time they met in person and rehearsed in person. And yeah, hopefully we can get into more episodes with a bit more structure in it and a bit less restrictions.
Oh, how interesting.
I can't wait to watch it.
The interview was a lot longer. I compressed it. I think it was, about half an hour, but I compressed it down. But I didn't know this guy had come from an Australian hip hop background, similar to what I have. But I noticed that when I was watching it, the way things are cut, there's a bit of a beat. And I say this, I recognize when there's a hip hop kind of lens, and DJ or production. I see it in the way they make videos or how they produce things. And then, even like the graffiti that's being showed, the trains, like you see elements of hip hop culture that are layered in there, So we had a whole discussion about that. And, I know a lot of the people that he worked with. So it was interesting how we have these creatives, where they start from and then how they're going back to culture, and we're using our multiple platforms and creating new spaces, new ways of storytelling, which we're natural at doing, So great to see that's happening in Melbourne. And, he's working on doing more of the web series and getting some support. And they have a GoFundMe. So, if people are interested and they want to support, just search for the Liana GoFundMe page.
Maybe we can put that GoFundMe page up on Oceania Tool for people to access. But congratulations, Sione, if you're listening in. Thank you so much for telling our stories, especially telling it through a challenging time, because I believe you did a lot of the reading of the script through Zoom. And
yes,
yeah, so incredible work. I look forward to seeing the rest of it. It is so important that we tell our stories, guys. It not only does it inspire, but it's also something to let off your chest. We're in that process at the moment at Matavai where, our young people are writing a play, a production, and our kids are putting dances together, and it's just another way of healing and to take care of your well-being and expressing yourself naturally, because it's a natural as well. So thank you to the crew down in Melbourne, Victoria.
Yeah, and the actors, so talented as well. Big ups to them as well.
Yes. The Samoan mum in that movie was hella scary, man. I think they should do a spin-off of just the Samoan mum, and it should be like a thriller or horror. Kind of scary.
Is it scary or is it realistic?
It's realistic.
Well, yeah, we all have an auntie or an uncle or a parent, right? That we're scared of.
I was getting triggered. I was like, oh my gosh. I felt like I wanted to get up and run. No, it was actually really good. Like, she was awesome, but it was also comical as well. It was funny.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations, Sione, on that, and it's great to see work coming out, expressing and sharing. So malo, Sione, malo apito. Now, coming up next, we really have 5 minutes left. So let's do some Moonlight Thoughts, ladies. Nice beats.
Ooh, I love that instrumental. Big ups.
Where did that come from?
That's one of the tracks that I did on one of my older albums called Supersede. And it was produced by Daniel Son.
Awesome. Nice beats. I need to get some music from you too, because, every time I'm putting up videos, and as we've seen, they keep on pulling it down because of copyright to music. So we need to that's why we're using all our own stuff. So send us some music. If you have some music you want us to use for different things, please send it through. We'd love to share it, and bring it out there. So ladies, Moonlight Thoughts.
You go, Trey.
Well, full moon, right? Yesterday. So there's still that full moon influence, which is why everything's a bit chaotic. But, it's been full on. So I guess all I wanted to say was just take it easy and, reach out if you need support. Send us a message. We can link you to people. But if you want to have a chat, but just take it easy. And, I feel like flying over to Fiji for the weekend and dipping into that pool. But otherwise, I'll just go up to the beaches on one of these days. But yeah, that's it for me. Take it easy.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Whaftai Lava. Thank you for everyone that made the comments. It's always an honor to have people join in as we have a chat and catch up every fortnight. For me, I would like to just say a big hello to my mum, Faitafa, who might be listening in. My Moonlight Thoughts, after speaking of, thanking all our elders at the beginning, I would say make more time to spend with your elders. If you are fortunate enough to have that time with them, take it. All they want is our time. Alofa te leatu. Until we see you again, stay safe. What about you, Seb? What's your Moonlight Thoughts?
Well, echoing both of what you've just said, but it's still on the same thing, right? The same theme, I should say, because so many of us are still going through. We're not out of the woods yet. And so it takes courage, it takes resilience, it takes commitment to ourselves to get through this. And I just want to say, when I was looking at the sunset this afternoon, on that photo that you saw, and the thought that came to my mind was, this too shall pass, and the sun shall rise again tomorrow. This sun shall set today, and tomorrow the sun will rise again, So whatever we're going through, this too shall pass, And so hang in there, keep fighting, have faith that you will come through whatever it is that you're going through. We don't know who's listening in that may be going through some really dark times, and we just send you love, and we pray that you'll come through this well. And that, it's in those moments that we can reach up, and also reach out, because there's always people there that are willing to help us. So just want to wish everyone well that are listening in. Please We do this show, as we've mentioned, fortnightly. So we won't be on next week, but we are on the following week. And I want to thank my beautiful hosts who have just been working so hard to put everything together. And so please follow, like, share. We're going to be posting more of this on YouTube as well. There's all these issues with algorithms. That's why it's not reaching out as much as it could. So do us a favor, follow the page, like the page, the Oceania 2 one, or the Fiji Day one, or Matavai one, but also on YouTube. Find us on YouTube and follow whoever, subscribe, and you'll be notified when the shows are on. And this is for us. This is a space for us, especially so many of us who are living abroad that are from the islands and connecting back to our roots. This is our space to be able to do that. So once again, a big vinakavakalevu. What else is there to say?
Melangi, bye. Bye, Joseph. Bye, Sione.
Take care, everyone.
Seasonal workers, if you live near seasonal workers, you know, you've seen them in town, help them, reach out to them, you know, just be kind and they might be needing help. So please, you know, look out for them. See you, everybody, until we see you. Or the week after.
Lolama from Fiji.
Bye.
When I wake in the morning, I look in the mirror. I thank the Lord for what He deliver. Blessed with the best, with an S on my chest. Your Kai Vitilewa coming through with zest. Yes, pushing on to the next test. You better have a rest, best. Believe I digest less. Remember, don't forget. Remember the days when we